We'll be making this set of snow geode coasters today. I'm going to take you through all the steps. I give you lots of tips along the way to help you learn just how you can create some of these beautiful coasters yourself. Hi everybody, it's Jenny here for Moonkusser Art. I'm in the studio. I'll be making a set of coasters today for you. I bought myself some new coaster molds and let's get started on this project. I'm going to be working here at my art table, and these are the new coasters that I bought from Crown Made. Now I've been following Crown Made. Helen is the owner and she is wonderful at making molds. These just came in the mail the other day. I am very impressed with them. I'm excited to give them a try. Thank you, Helen, for getting those out to me so quickly. I have made a lot of geode coaster sets over the years, and they're really fun to make. They're beautiful. These are the colors I'm going to be using. This is from FlowArt. It's their Bling It line. You can see here's one of my little test puddles. It's a really nice silver. Just a little bit of sparkle that I'm going to have in here. I like to use 99% alcohol to get some effects out of the products that I'll be using. I'm going to go with a really white theme. I don't know, maybe because Helen's coasters are white, maybe because it's wintertime and we're scheduled for snow today. I don't know, but white was talking to me today, and that's all there is to it. So I have some nice white glitter with a little bit of silver sparkle there. I have some of my black diamond pigments. This is their silver pearl. And I also invested in a new level for myself, a little bit more precise, because gosh, let me tell you, if you don't have a level tabletop when you're making coasters, it's a problem. They're going to be lopsided. So I'm excited to use these. I'm going to get into, I'll be using the Epoxy Resin Store's Premium Clear Epoxy. It's my favorite to use for creating some nice effects in my coasters. And these are the ones, I'm going to move this box out of the way so that I can show you a little bit better, I hope. These are the coasters that I've been using for years, probably close to 2 years that I've been using these. So you can see that they're really yellowed. They actually are a little bit harder. They're not as soft as they once were. But here's what I wanted to show you. I'm not sure that I can capture it well on video, but I'm going to try. See if I can get the light a little bit better for you guys here. I don't know if you can tell, but these edges are starting to roll out. So it's not a square true edge. And the reason why they're rolling out, I'll back out a little bit, is because the center is cupping. And I store these on a flat surface so that I can try to avoid having this cupping problem happen. And it's still happening. So that's because the silicone is aging. So, you know, they don't last forever. We like them to last for as long as we can have them last. But you can see that the walls here are not as thick as the walls on the Crown Made coasters. So I'm thinking that that's going to be a big plus. All right, so we'll see. But these are the molds that I bought, and I'm going to start making a setup with you guys. So let's get going. Right, so doing my coasters in the past with my old molds, these were from Let's Resin, I would use 12 ounces of resin. So I've already marked my cup on the side here. I measured out, I used water as my constant, and I put 6 ounces of water in, and then I added 6 more. So I made my marks because the Epoxy Resin Store's resin, their premium clear that I'm going to be using today, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So that's by volume. I'm only using the water to get my constant. If you were to weigh 6 ounces of this and 6 ounces of the hardener, they don't weigh the same, and it would mess up your quantity, and your mix would be off. So by volume, I make my marks on the cup, and then I start adding my products from the epoxy resin store. I always like to put the hardener in the cup first because it's very viscous, or not viscous, it has a low viscosity, sorry. Viscous means that it's thick. This does not. This is very thin epoxy, so it works really nicely in the molds. I put the hardener in first, and then I'm going to add the resin on top. You can see how clear it is. It's beautiful. And then I'm going to stir this in the cup for 3 to 5 minutes. And I'm going to, you can see now how when you start stirring, it gets cloudy. And as it mixes together, it will clear. Once I have a nice crystal clear mixture, I know that I'm good to go. I'm going to stir. It doesn't matter if you go in different directions. I don't care what people say. You're mixing. Okay? Mixing is mixing. It doesn't all have to go in one direction. But what you do want to make sure is you scrape the sides of your cup. So just take your stick and make sure it's up against the entire wall of the cup. And you're just going to stir. So just change the way you mix. It doesn't matter. You can see it's already starting to clear a little bit. Everything's very white on my tabletop. It's wintertime here in the Northeast, and it's a cold day outside. And I got the heat on in here. I've got the room temperature is at 72 degrees. A little warmer than I keep the rest of the house, and that's a great temperature for working with your resin. I don't want to pour these too thick. If you pour your resin too thick, then it's going to accelerate the cure time, and that's when you can actually have what they call a flash cure, and things will start to heat up. And I've actually had resin heat up right in my cup. If I added too much, sometimes I've used acrylic paint, which is water-based. If you use that in resin, it's going to change the chemical reaction, and some of them, depending on what it is, it'll really make it all of a sudden flash cure, and your whole cup will turn into a rock-hard piece of resin, and nobody wants that. So you can see it's getting very clear. Get my big hands out of the way. Right? Very nice and crystal clear. You can see my fingers right through the cup. It's one of the reasons why I thought I'd grab a nice clear cup to give you guys a good view of how this looks. Not a lot of bubbles. Again, it's because this is a thinner resin, and it's a reason why I like to use it for my coasters. And then I will top coat these resin coasters with something else that has a high heat rating, but we'll get into that later. So again, I'm just taking my time. You can see, maybe you can, try to zoom in, but when you scrape the edges, can you see those swirls in the cup? Maybe. I can see them with my bare eye. There they are. Right in here. See those? That tells me that I'm doing a good job, but I want to get those all to go away. You have to scrape the bottom of your cup as well. So I take my stick and I swish it back and forth like that. Get the tip of the stick into the crevices. You really want to take your time mixing your resin. There's nothing worse than not doing a good job mixing that will leave a section of your mixture actually. So it's like if you are baking and you add eggs, and sometimes the eggs will stick to the bottom or the flour will stick to the bottom, then you got to go back and you got to mix it again. So this is what we're trying to avoid. We don't want anything sticking to the bottom or creating an area that's not blended together well. And all this results in a good mixture. All right, so I've done plenty of talking, and I have a really nice mixture. It's crystal clear. A little few more bubbles in there because I was talking and mixing, but that's all right. You're gonna be fine. Okay, so that's all set to go. Now let's get these set up. I have used my level and made sure that my tabletop is level. So that's done. We have these out. And I'm also going to be using a mold release. So I'm just going to give it a really quick little spritz. Just like that. That's going to do a couple of things. It's going to make it easier for getting the resin out of the mold, and it's also going to help make the molds last a little bit longer. All right, now we're going to start mixing up our colors. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of this resin into the bottom of the molds to let the bubbles start to pop. Okay, we'll reserve a little bit there on the side. So we've got the glitter, just a little tiny bit in this cup. There we go. That's just enough to get that resin to be sticky, just like that. And this one is going to be for the bling it. So it looks very silver. So when I look at it on the side, I can see has a little bit of a transparency to it, so that's good. That's how I want that to look. And we'll do the black diamonds. The one I'm probably going to use the most. Just like a pearl. Beautiful. Okay, and finally I have FlowArt resin pigment. I get this from the epoxy resin store. It's one of my favorite whites to use for getting lacing in my ocean pieces. It's very thick pigment. It takes my bottle is starting to get a little bit on the empty side, so it takes a little bit for the color to get down here. There it comes. All right. That's probably way more white than I needed. And you can see that's a beautiful bright white. Love that. All right. Now these have been sitting here. So I'm going to pop those bubbles just a little bit. Okay. Then I'm just going to pick these coasters up and do just like that to get them to coat the bottom, because I don't want any bubbles sitting on the bottoms. That would leave a pit hole. So by doing this, it just flows and gives me a great smooth bottom. And that's the other thing that's nice about these molds is they're thicker, so you can pick them up. Some of the thin ones, you can't pick them up. There's not a lot of resin in here, so they're working great as far as being able to do exactly what I'm doing here. I can see a couple of bubbles here on the side. So, where's my toothpick? Uh-oh. I usually have a toothpick handy. Hold on, let me get my toothpick. Well, let's see if I can. Right here, right in that crack is one of those pesky bubbles. So if we pull them out, I'm going to have a better chance at getting them to pop. You can see there's a couple floating in here. Now, if you want to avoid getting bubbles, you can stir slower than what I did. I did stir a little bit on the faster side. Let's pop the bubbles with the embossing tool. All right, those are all popped out of there. Now, we're ready to start having some fun. So this is, again, this is the black diamonds, the pearl, silver pearl. And I like to add the 99% alcohol to it right before I start pouring. So just a couple of drops. And I'm going to put some in the bling it as well. I don't need it in my white. All right, so you can see I've kept some resin in reserve here. So let's start by putting the white on the outside edge. I'm going to actually stir that again because my paint stick had quite a bit of pigment still on it, and I want that to get blended in well. All right. Nice. I'm going to make a pinch in my cup, use it like a spout, and I'm going to edge each coaster. Some of the black diamond silver pearl going. Same thing, making the pinch cup. The little drizzle of the silver. And let's put a little bit of the glitter in the middle. And then I'm going to pour a little bit more of the clear over top of everything. So you can see that pushed everything back to the sides again. Now I'm going to do it all over again with the remainder of my colors. All right, and I'm back with this. And I don't want my rings to stay so perfectly perfect. Not that they are, they're not. I'm just gonna kind of poke at it a little bit, just to break it up so that it's not an exact ring or whatever, just to move it about a little bit. These are all going to move as the resin cures. All these pigments, you can see this one's really showing it. It's starting to drift in towards the center. And that's one of the things I like about doing these. It's really hard to control. So you got to go with the flow. And I'm already liking what I'm seeing here. So you can see, maybe you can see, that the mica powder is really settling in on the bottom. It's sinking down to the bottom. Okay, just like that. And the white is drifting out across the top. I can see the pearl popping through the white. It's looking pretty nice. All right. And then I have just a little tiny bit more. So I'll load some up onto my stick, and then I'll do some drizzling from way up high. And again, this is just to create some depth in the patterns. This will carry some of the pigment right down to the bottom with it. All right, so they're all evenly filled, so that's good. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to let them do their thing, and we will see how they look tomorrow. Good morning, everybody. We are down in the studio again, and ta-da! There they are. I really like, oh, these are going to be cool. These are going to be cool. So, without further ado, let's pop them out. Always wear your gloves when you take your coasters out of your molds because they could be slightly soft. Oh my goodness. This is so pretty. Oh, I love it. Let's flip it over. And that's blah, which, you know, I don't care if it's blah on this side. But this side, oh, this is going to be so pretty. All right, let's keep going. Okay, so they're all out. The next step is there's always just this is going to be my top. So there's a very slight little lip edge. I don't know if you can, yeah, here. There, you can kind of see that lip edge up there, right? So what I do is I take a nail file, just an emery board, and I'm just going to round that over just a little bit, and then I will put latex, liquid latex on the back to protect the back. And once that's completely dry, then I'm going to paint the edge. Obviously, I've got silver in here, so I'll be painting it a silver color, and let's get going on to those steps. All right, the liquid latex is dry, and now it's time to paint on the gilding paint. This is Craftsmart's gilding paint, and it goes on really nicely. The silver is a nice bright, and I like to also add a little lip edge to make it pop off the tabletops. All right, we are ready to move on here. I wanted to stop and give you a look at that lip edge. Sorry about the reflections, but you know, resin's shiny. Look at how shiny. Anyway, the lip edge has been sanded down. It's not sharp. There is a little bit of an edge there. You can't avoid that, excuse me, when you're using silicone molds, because the resin is going to, just like water, it's going to come up to that edge, and the tension of the water surface or of the resin makes it create a little lip. So we deal with that. I'm going to be batching up some of Counterculture DIY's artist resin. It's their original mixture. And what I like about that resin and what I do on these is I clear coat them for a couple of reasons. Number one, I want to make sure that I am sealing anything that I have put into the resin is going to be sealed under a clear coat. and that's to make it food safe and also heat resistant. Big thumbs up, counterculture. Heat resistant up to 500 degrees. So very nice for using in coasters, and it'll add to the depth. So you can see here like some of the glitter floated up to the top, so it gives that little blemish in the surface, so that stops that. It's also going to seal in the paint that I added for gilding on the edge. It's a nice bright silver, so it's looking good. All right, so let's get going. Remember, I also did put the liquid latex on the back, and that's to protect the edges so that any drips that come over the sides, because I do put the resin on the sides. I use my fingertip in a glove and I massage it across the sides, again, sealing any of that in. Okay, so let's get going. 3 ounces of counterculture DIY. Well, today is the next day, and these sat underneath their cover overnight. Let's get that off of there. There they are. Looking very, very pretty. That's a good shine on there, like that. The edges look nice. And just a little bit of drips came around the edge. It happens every time. So that's why the liquid latex is on there. It's really easy to get that off. You want to be careful right at the edge. So what I'll do is I will use my embossing tool. I will just warm those edges up just slightly, and then I'll very carefully remove the liquid latex. It just rolls. See how that just rolls? I didn't go all the way across the center, didn't need it. I just needed it around the edges. So see how that just pulls right off? That's really easy. I have my gloves on. It's important to keep your gloves on because you can leave fingerprints when you have a pristine, shiny surface like that. You want to take your time. Keep your gloves on. This hand is going to now lose the glove. I'm actually going to take it off. Don't want to drop it. The gloved hand will hold, and then we'll just roll that liquid latex right off of there. And then again, where there's a drip, you want to be careful. Just warm it up, and then I take my fingernail just like that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that and get these backs cleaned up, and we'll get some pictures. Here they are, snow geodes. I just love how delicate these are. The details in these coasters are just spectacular. White drifts very nicely in resin, and the black diamond pearl, the silver pearl is just lovely. And look at how that glitter sparkles. It's a great project. I hope you give it a try, and thanks so much for watching here on Moonkusser Art.